see yourself.
Well, I learned from a friend that showed me why. Instead of asking why, start asking why not. Time flies when you're having fun. Time flies when you're lying in the sun. Bit by bit, the older that we get, the faster it tick, 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 ticks. Time flies. Whoa, whoa, time flies.
Good afternoon, Lyndall here with Marshfield Old School Times, and if you saw the beginning of this just a few minutes ago, the very first picture on the Dennis Beck Time Flies song was Roger Replogle and his lovely wife Janet, and we've got him here with us today. Mr. Replogle, welcome to Marshfield Old School Times.
Pleasure to be here.
Good to have you in, my friend. So Roger and I go way back to our childhood playing MAB baseball together, and I've definitely had a few meals at Maxine's table with he and Ronnie, and great memories. And we're just so happy to have Roger with us today. Of course, today is the big Reunion Fest day here in Marshfield, and we this is our 15th annual, and it just happens to be the 50th anniversary of your graduation, the class of '76, and you guys have planned this for a while.
Yeah, I think we got together roughly about a year ago and said, let's start planning it now. So I put together a group of a few people, and I'm going to guess we had 7, 8 conference calls, video calls, just trying to plan on what we wanted to do. There was a small group of us that golfed yesterday. We're doing the tour with either you or somebody on your team before our actual
about
reunion.
4 o'clock today, actually. Yeah.
And then and then we're going to have a float in the parade tomorrow.
Cool.
So
yeah. Well, it's a big weekend for Marshfield,
Yeah.
and it's rare that we have this 250th USA birthday and the 100th anniversary of Route 66 and all the things this year that's going on, and it happens to be your 50th, but which means you were the bicentennial class of 76.
We were.
Kind of special, wasn't it?
It was, but you know what? I think people thought, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Because, we're, 17, 18 years old. It's not as big when you're that age as
A lot
it is
more worried
today.
about getting that diploma and getting the heck out of here. Yeah. No, it great memories, and we're going to look forward to this evening and the rest of the weekend with lots of friends and family. So, Roger, we like to start at the beginning. As you know, first of all, I want to mention my shirt. You're probably thinking, what kind of a
Well, I have a story about a shirt before we get started.
Okay,
too.
wild-looking shirt. And so today was the Bill Walker Fun Run, the Marshfield Public School Foundation. This morning we had a great turnout, had beautiful weather. Pretty warm already this morning at 8 o'clock, but that's what my shirt is. It's the Fun Run, raise funds for the Marshfield Public School Foundation, and specifically the Bill Walker Scholarship that's part of that. So that's the reason for the shirt. What have you got there, Raj?
I have a shirt to give to you.
Oh, my goodness.
Since it's the 50th reunion, the 100-year anniversary of Route 66 and the 250th reunion, they're all represented in this shirt.
They are. Awesome.
We had them made for our reunion. I thought it'd be nice to give you one today.
Thank you. I'll hang that up with all my memorabilia after I wear it a time or two. But
yeah, the trifecta. Yeah. It's a trifecta of anniversaries.
It is. Speaking of shirts, since you're here and you'll remember, look around behind you. Logan, spin that camera over to the wall and see if you can remember that yellow shirt on the wall. The Sound Shack.
I remember it well. I remember that and the drafting.
Yeah, the drafting class with Ralph. Ralph.
Yeah.
So, great memories from high school.
So when did I arrive? I interrupted you.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
So obviously, born in Marshfield, actually in Marshfield. I was a Dr. Tommy baby out at the clinic. December 7th, 1957. My mom always said that on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, she dropped the big bomb because I was a 10-pound baby. So I'm sure it was not too comfortable for her. We lived on 254 East 3rd Street the entire time that I lived here. Mom and Dad moved out to Jackson Street, close to where Young's Shopping Center used to be. That house has now been torn down, and then they built one a little further out towards Northview. But great memories of Marshfield. I will tell you, I have a funny story that will kind of put things in place. I went to work I moved to Los Angeles in 1980. I actually chased my wife back to California. I lived out there with Dennis Beck, one of my best friends, for 2 years before Janet and I got married. And one of the things, I went to work for the Federal Reserve Bank almost immediately, and spent 43 years there and retired 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But probably in, what was it, 91 that the president came here?
Yeah.
I couldn't get vacation time off other than a couple of days. So what we ended up doing was driving back nonstop. We didn't sleep. We drove 20-some hours to get here. And that back was, I think that's back when the speed limit was 55, if I'm not mistaken.
Could have been in 91, yeah.
And we wanted to see the president in Marshfield. I mean,
Yeah.
things like that don't happen.
Yeah.
So
I
I was
think
able
I
to...
remember you that weekend. I saw you at Noel Thomas's Conoco station.
Yeah. And
Because I hadn't seen you for probably since you left.
that's probably true.
Yeah.
And, you know, I, at work, was actually, I've worked all my time at the Fed in payments. And so at that time, I was running the check department for the Fed in Los Angeles. And there was a investigation going on by the Secret Service of checks that were being stolen, shipped off to the Philippines, bleached out, and then rewritten for much larger amounts than the original check. And so they were working through us to find out the data we had on checks that came through, because we would catch them and report it to them. And so I was able to get a long weekend. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 days before the 4th and then a day or two after. So we were only here for a few days. But when I got back and we were back at work talking about this check investigation, the contact I had there with the Secret Service said, he said, "What'd you guys do over the holiday?" And I said, "Well, I went back home and visited some friends. Turns out the president came to my hometown." He goes, "You're kidding me." He says, "I went back at the same time that you did and came back." He was only here for a few days,
Yeah.
but he was here, for the 4th of July
Yeah.
parade. And, his comments, and this is what I mean that kind of typifies the life in Marshfield at that time. He said, "I've never been in a town that felt more like Mayberry than Marshfield, Missouri."
Yeah.
He says the people there were so friendly. They took care of us. People, you know, would willing to help and do anything that we needed. So it made me feel proud that he said that in front of a bunch of people I work with about this is where I came from.
That is cool.
Yeah, Marshfield.
So would have had no idea that the Secret Service that you were dealing with out there would be one that actually would have been here guarding the president.
Yeah, and if I'd have known that, I'd probably gotten a better view than getting.
Yeah. Because you knew him kind of
Yeah.
already anyway. Yeah, that's cool. Well, I was fortunate enough to be in the motorcade. You know, I drove a couple of his people, actually a speechwriter and a couple of people, and it was a fun time. It was a great experience, and I know Marshfield really did a great job. The Chamber of Commerce, the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, the Mayor, all of them, they all did a great job of you know, kind of putting on the dog, so to speak. But,
they did a great job.
Well, so 1980, I was thinking it was just a few years prior to that. So 80, and when did you get married then, you and Janet?
Jen and I got married here in Marshfield in the Methodist Church on June 26, 1982.
82, okay, okay.
So
Gotcha.
she has family. Most people probably don't know Janet. Janet has family in this area as well. C.D. Smith and Joyce Smith were her aunt and uncle, and so we always came back to visit them, and so she's always had a very good connection. Her father is actually a 1957 graduate of Marshfield High School. And so...
and Joyce, I know, graduated with my dad in 1948.
Yeah.
Joyce Ellis Smith. They lived out in Anglewood. A lot of people did know the Smiths, certainly.
And so, you know, her family moved back here in 1978, and the economy wasn't doing the greatest in 1978.
Yeah.
And so I believe in late 79, or no, maybe it was early 1980, his work in California called and said, "We've got this project that you would just be great for. Would you consider moving back to California?"
Sure.
And he did.
Yeah.
And Janet asked me if, she said, we'd been dating for probably 6 or 7 months, and you know, her comment was, "I think this is a relationship that has some meaning, and it could go places, and you know, would you ever consider moving to California? Or I could help my family move back and then come back and get an apartment here."
Sure.
And like I said, my good friend Dennis Beck had moved out 6 months earlier, so I called Dennis and said, "Hey, you need a roommate? I'm going to come out."
Yeah.
And so he said yes, but he said, It'll be tight quarters because it's a 1-bedroom unit, and I already have a roommate. So there were 3 of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment for at least the first 8 months, and then the other roommate graduated from the school they were going to, and then it was just Dennis and I for a while.
Yeah.
But I was in shell shock going to California. I mean, I was not used to the traffic. I was not used to all the lines. I missed the Ozarks. It's totally different in seasons. Here, everything's green in the summer and brown in the winter. There, everything's brown in the summer and green in the winter.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of different things that I had to get used to.
And the winters aren't real winter, are they?
No, they're 65, 70, sometimes 80 and 90. But I made a commitment that no matter what, I was going to give it a year, and if I didn't like it after a year, I was going to come back. And I will tell you, probably the first 5 or 6 months, I had several thoughts. Man, I miss Marshfield. I miss Missouri. I'm not sure this is for me.
Sure.
And then the first Christmas came around, and Janet's parents had a pool, and I remember sitting around the pool in shorts and flip-flops. My wife calls them thongs. She gets mad when I call them flip-flops. And I called back home, and I think you guys had like 12 inches of snow on the ground. And I sat there after the call, and I said, you know what? California's not so bad after all.
Yeah.
And then I have to give Janet credit. She really took me all around the state, to Sequoia National Park, to Yosemite, to the beach. I mean, she took me to all that California has to offer. And so it grew on me, and 46 years later, I'm still there.
It's amazing. Then the first children, they come along to in the 80s?
We waited a little while.
Yeah.
Randy, and that's R-A-N-D-I, not a Y.
Right.
And that's my oldest daughter. She was born in 86.
Yeah.
2 years later, we had Laurel. She was born in 88. And we always said, 3. And then we realized how much work 2 was. And so we waited a while. And then I obviously said, I'd really like to try to have a son. And so in 1996, we had twins.
Yeah.
Riley, my daughter. My girls sometimes have boys' names, but I don't know why. We just like those
Riley's
names.
go either way, yeah.
And then my son Cole. And a couple of years afterwards, we realized that Cole was not developing the way he should be, and found out that he has special needs. That there's a genetic disorder called Fragile X syndrome, where the X chromosome doesn't produce the right proteins in the brain, and so they don't connect correctly, and there's a big learning disability. And he's also autistic. And so I describe him as 29 going on 4. And it's probably always going to be that way. He's basically nonverbal. He probably has 100 words that I understand and Janet understands, but you wouldn't probably understand 80% of them. So we will never be empty nesters. Riley and Cole will always be with us. Riley also has the Fragile X syndrome, but in girls you have 2 X's, and so she got some good X's and some X's that were bad from both of us. And fortunately, some of the good X's are dominant. At the early stage in girls, I had no idea about this, but because you have 2 X's, one becomes dominant and one becomes passive. And so some of her X's that are dominant are really good, and some of her X's that are not, she has a few quirks. Great kid, laughs, smart, a little bit of anxiety, but just, could be a ton of fun to be around. Sometimes too much fun, and doesn't know when to stop. But they're our special needs kids that will always be with us.
Well, it's hard to fathom. It's hard to understand unless you've been there and you are parents of kids, but like that. But you guys are remarkable. I mean, just what. Of course, we talk about Facebook, we talk about social media and how bad it is, but it is also a fantastic tool to stay connected. And as you know, most of us back here in Missouri had lost connection with you, and as most do until the advent of the internet and the social media formats. And so it's been great to catch up. But the thing that a lot of people would say that it has to be a mission. It has to be you were blessed in some ways because or they were, because you all are fantastic parents.
Well,
and you've got a tremendous. You've done a tremendous job.
I have to say, in some ways, we were blessed too.
Yeah.
And I remember when my son was diagnosed, the doctor came out and sat down with us and said, "Okay, I want you to go home and mourn the loss of your son. You did not have the son that you thought you were going to
Yeah.
have. And then tomorrow you wake up and you celebrate the son that you've got."
Yeah.
He said, "If you don't do that, I can tell you that he's going to be unhappy, you're going to be unhappy, your wife's going to be unhappy, and you will get a divorce. This is just, you have to accept what's going on and be patient and learn and move forward at his pace, not the pace I expect him to move forward."
Yeah.
And very, very true. The other thing is, every now and then, that's kind of hard for me to keep up. And so Janet sets me straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Janet's a saint. And really
It
has
appears
taken-
that way.
Yeah.
Just again from
Yeah.
Facebook, and
Yeah.
and
Janet's
appears
a
like
saint.
she's really quite a woman.
But
Yeah.
it's definitely a challenge. But, you-
And speaking of that, that's allowed you to have a phenomenal career. And probably do a lot more with what you've been able to do there than you might have had you not had that kind of support.
Yeah, and I kind of had to have a good career because these two kids needed her at home
Again,
to support, and
like
so
it
we
was
were
almost
one
part of the
income
plan.
family.
Yeah. Almost part of the plan.
Yeah,
So let's talk a little bit more about your career. You started in the mailroom, right?
I did.
And this is with the Federal Reserve, which
Correct.
we all know handle our, as I don't know the official word, but are basically the government entity or the quasi-government
Right.
entity that handles the money for the federal government.
Yeah, I started the mailroom and quickly, after arriving in California, realized that mailroom salary was not going to be enough to support just me. So for the first year, I had two jobs. I worked during the day at the Fed, and then at night, I was a courier delivering ACH tapes. Most people don't know what ACH is. It's automated clearinghouse. It's your house payment that's made automatically for you. But I was delivering those at night to data centers and banks. And then on the weekends, I would go down and see Janet, and we would do that.
Yeah.
And then after about a year...
You were living with Dennis then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dennis and I were living together. In
Yeah.
fact, he needed extra money, so he used my car when I wasn't on runs, and he got he used it for delivery of those tapes from time to time.
So did he sit around and pick on the guitar at night?
Yeah, there was a fair amount of
little
that.
bit of
But I would say most of that was them practicing. Dennis was going to school to be a professional musician. In fact, the lead singer from Foreigner was in his band.
Lou Graham?
No, the guy that replaced
Oh,
Lou
the
Graham.
guy that replaced
Yeah.
him. No kidding.
He was in.
Kelly?
Yeah, Kelly.
Uh-huh.
Kelly Hansen
Yeah.
was in the band that Dennis was in, playing around Hollywood back
Really?
then, and so they were going to school to get better and better at guitar. My other roommate, and they practiced all the time. Sure, we'd sit around and do some, and
Yeah.
I regret that I didn't learn how to play guitar
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
But they were just so good and so intimidating.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
I'm going to sit here and sound
natural
like an
ability,
idiot.
yeah.
So I didn't really learn. I can play three chords really, really bad. But on the weekends I went. Janet lived down in Orange County, and I was up in the valley. So I'm going to say that's probably a 45, 50 mile difference. And so I would drive down on Friday after work and spend the weekend with her and her parents and her brother. And then on Sunday night, I would drive back home, and then I wouldn't see her during the week.
Yeah.
And we did that every weekend if we weren't out,
Yeah.
seeing something in California. And then after a year, I got a job in the cash department, taking in deposits and verifying them. Did that for probably 3.5 years until I got so bored I decided I either have to go back to school and get my degree because when I left I didn't have my degree and I didn't have time when I first went to work in the mailroom, or I'm going to try to get in management. And so I started posting for jobs as a supervisor, and after a couple of tries I was hired as a supervisor, and I've had some luck in my career, and one of the lucks was probably 6 months after I became a supervisor, our whole accounting system in the Fed, not just in my office, but across the nation, was changing, and everybody had to convert. And we were putting in a new cash application system. that had to go in first. So I was trying
Just
to
about
prove.
the time debit cards.
Yeah, a little later than that.
It was a little later.
But
Okay.
it
Mid
was-
80s?
Yeah, mid 80s. And I decided if I don't have my degree, and I'm now in management, if I'm going to get ahead, I really have to prove myself. And so I worked 16-hour days for probably 6 to 8 months. Lost about 40 pounds to make sure that everything went in okay. And it did. And so I got recognition about, okay, this guy is a good people leader, but he's also capable of, managing projects.
Yeah.
And so they came to me and said, about a year later, and said, would love for you to go up and manage our check department as a manager. And a lot of hesitation on my part. LA check was in very, very bad shape. I would have been the fourth manager in the last year and a half. One got fired, one went out on stress, and one just quit. And all my friends said, it's been nice knowing you because you won't be here much longer.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? Again, it's an opportunity to, if I can do that, maybe that helps with not having the degree.
Yeah.
And I went up, and I had a stroke of luck there in the fact that the Board of Governors audit team came out and wrote the worst audit in the history of the Fed and operations. It was like 56 pages of findings. None of them I created, but I got to fix them. And so I got the attention from senior management to give us what we needed to fix it right. And within 6 months, they came back out and said, "You guys have done a phenomenal job. You're one of the best check processing shops in the Fed system now." In fact, I went out with another guy to 3 other Feds to teach them what we did to fix their check operations. And I did that. I did that job for about 4 or 5 years, and then they asked me to go run our business development department. I don't remember the years. It was probably early 90s. And you think business development in the Fed, what do they sell? What do they market? And there were 2 things. Check clearing and ACH and wire transfer. Those are all products that we sold to commercial banks. So, at that time, Citizens Bank was still here.
Yep.
They probably used our products to send wires or do ACH through the ACH network, and probably deposit their checks with somebody in Springfield that then would deposit them with the Fed up in St. Louis. So I had a group of about 20 people that went out and met with the banks and said, "Are you using our products or are you using the clearinghouse products?" And we were competing. That was an interesting job because being who we were, we didn't pay taxes, and a bank and other people that processed payments did. And so we had to price our products as if we paid taxes.
I see.
So we were not being unfairly competitive with those that had to pay taxes. And so it was some interesting years. You never wanted to make money, but you never wanted to lose money.
Yeah.
It's hard to break even over time. And there were years we lost a little money. There were years that we made money. But in the long run, we were right at what we called 100% cost recovery.
Was the whole Federal Reserve of the LA facility, was it all right there under one roof, or was it scattered in different buildings?
Well, no, it was all under one roof.
Okay, so how far did you live then to go to work?
I lived, before I got married, I lived about 14 miles, and I typically took a bus. I'd drive some days, but LA traffic, I'd rather take the bus.
Sure.
And then when Janet and I got married, we moved to Studio City, which was a little bit closer, but she had a job in Orange County, and it's like 45 miles in LA traffic each day, both ways.
Right.
That obviously didn't work, and so then we moved down to Orange County, close to where her parents were at. We lived in Whittier for a few years, renting.
Nixon's.
His library. He went to school there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Whittier College.
Yorba Linda.
Yeah,
Yorba
Yorba Linda's his library.
Right.
Whittier College is where he graduated.
Right.
But we lived there, and we rented from a fireman, and I think we were there for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And our landlord called and said, "You know what? We're moving to Chico, California. I'm retiring, and the housing market at that time was not good. So he says, I'm just going to let this place go." So he says, "You're free to live here until they make you move, evict you."
Really?
Because I'm not paying any more on this house. Now, you do have to pay the association fees. They can come after me for those. Yeah. And so I think Janet and I lived there probably another 4 months or so
Yeah.
without paying anything other than
Wow.
$50, $60 for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
association. Then we moved down by her parents in northern Orange County, and then we bought our first house in '91 in Chino Hills, which is about 40 miles from work. So
Okay.
that was my furthest, and
That was the
since
furthest.
'91, we lived in either Chino Hills or Chino, and so my commute was 40 miles
And you
each
drove,
way.
You drove
I
it?
drove.
Yeah.
Now, as time went on and my career progressed, I traveled a lot, and
Yeah.
so being close to the Ontario airport was more my commute than going downtown.
I see.
And so the Ontario airport was 10 minutes away. It was an hour, hour and a half on a good day
Yeah.
to get to LA. I've had commutes into LA that took me 3 hours.
Wow.
And then they put in a train, and I decided the train runs on the schedule. It's not always faster, but it's always consistent. So I knew when I was going to get to work and when I was going to get to go
Right.
home. So I did that. I did that job for I think 5 years, and then they asked me to run. They promoted me to an officer for the organization, and I ran cash for a period. No, I ran business development for a period of time as an officer. Then they promoted me to an assistant a vice president, and I ran cash. And then
So you'd still been less than 20 years
Yeah.
by that time. I mean,
Yeah.
pretty fast.
and then in the early 2000s, we changed, and products used to be run in each of the branches. So in LA, somebody in that building was in charge of everything. And then we got a new COO and decided, I got 5 people that run cash, I got 5 people that run check, and I don't like that. I want one person to run it. So when you ran something at that point, you ran it for the district. So when I took over cash, I had cash in Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Seattle, San Francisco, Portland, and LA. And interesting things there, as checks started going away, I mean, there's almost no checks.
Yep.
If they're written, they're usually captured by your iPhone or someone
Right.
else. So checks used to fly around the country all the time.
Right.
Now they're an image if they go.
Right.
And so I had the opportunity to close down Portland first, Seattle second. Seattle second, Salt Lake City third, San Francisco, and then eventually L.A. When I was running the check department as a senior vice president. And it's not fun I had to lay off over a course of probably 2 years. Me and my team, I say
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not me,
yeah.
but me and my team, we laid off about 700 employees.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, nobody's writing
Because-
checks
because of
anymore.
checks.
Yeah, and
This
you
was
know,
the mid 2000s, probably.
early 2000s.
Yeah.
And that wasn't fun. But I will tell you, the Fed was really good to people. We offered them packages. They got, I think, 2 weeks severance for every year they worked. We had training to get them jobs. Still sad to see friends that you'd worked with for
Sure.
25 years
Sure.
walk out the door not knowing what's going to happen next to them.
Sure.
And then after that, I got promoted to senior vice president again at a different level, and I ran cash, check, facilities, and actually the law enforcement unit for the Fed. And they are federal law enforcement. So there's a time my brother was in law enforcement and I was quasi in law enforcement. I was not a sworn officer, but I had 132 police officers in all those locations that protected our buildings. So our jurisdiction was our property. We were not co-designated.
Right.
But there were times when you see a crime as a police officer, if it's a bodily injury is possible, we were expected to intervene. But if it's minor theft, we used to say, that's not our jurisdiction.
Right.
Be a good witness, call the police, because we can't do anything.
Sure.
And that was interesting. And as part of the building, I got to build a new building. We'd never had a cash operation in Phoenix. I got to help build that, hire people, and set up a brand new operation for the Fed. And
So
50
was
some
the
years.
LA the mothership for all these other?
Well, no, San
really?
Francisco's the head office. There's 12 districts.
Okay.
So we were a branch of San Francisco.
Okay.
But some of us out in the branches actually ran district responsibilities in all those offices.
I see. So how many San Franciscos are there in the
12.
nation? There's 12, like Denver and Philadelphia and
Yeah.
okay. And then how many facilities in San Francisco would they be connected with?
There used to be 7.
Okay. Just to
And,
get an
and,
idea.
and in fact, there still is, but there's no operations in
Yeah.
some of those.
Yeah.
We rent space in Portland and have a board of directors, and that's all we have.
That's it.
That's it. There's a board of director meeting that gathers economic data from the community to take to Washington D.C.
Sure.
for the FOMC meeting.
Sure.
LA still has when I first started, I think at the biggest was almost 1,000 employees, and today it's 280.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, check was a huge piece, and even cash is not used as much as it used to be.
Sure, absolutely.
So it's smaller, and with technology, I mean, we became a lot more efficient in processing with automation. We had robots in our vaults in some locations.
That's why we're building data centers.
That's right. I know.
I mean, sorry, but that's what.
And
it's got to be stored somewhere.
And one of the things, everybody talks bad about AI, and AI can be bad.
Sure. Just
And
like everything. Can be
Everybody,
bad.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And AI can be really good.
Yeah.
And we used to use, we didn't call it AI, but it's exactly what AI is. We use machine learning to test
Sure.
our software whenever we did new upgrades to software, because we were building it on top of the existing software and making changes, and we'd run transactions through that, not real transactions, but fake
Sure.
transactions to make sure that everything functioned the way it was supposed
Right,
to. So
right.
AI has been coming probably for the last 10, 15 years.
No
We just
question about it.
we called it something very
Right.
different than we do today. But without that, I mean, we would have to do a ton of work to test the software, and then we would have delays, and it was very costly, and have to rewrite software. But when you have automated testing through AI, you catch all of those early, and
Right.
it really saves a lot of money.
Yeah.
And headaches if you're doing transactions of money to banks.
Sure. So when you retired, your position was.
So the last, let me.
Yeah,
I had two
fill in the blanks.
I had 2 positions. So my last 2 positions were, I was promoted to the LA regional executive, which meant I was in charge of our board of directors. So I recruited business people to come in 7 times a year to give us data about what was going on in the economy. And the Fortune 500, I recruited the head of Sprouts.
Yeah.
They're maybe not as big here because of Cashew Chicken in Springfield, but the founder of Panda Express was on my board.
Oh, really? Yeah.
A gentleman from Arizona that ran First Solar was on my board.
Yeah.
A gentleman who ran casinos in Las Vegas was on the board. I had the executive director of SAG-AFTRA, the
Screen Actors Guild.
Screen Actors Guild that
Yeah.
was on the board, and we also had. We had a nun who ran a nonprofit.
Yeah.
So when we take in economic information, we don't want to just hear about what's happening at the best companies. We wanted to know what's happening on the ground. How are some of these things affecting people that are running nonprofits, and what does that mean? So I did that for the last 10 years, and then the last 7, in addition to doing that, I took on the lead for cash operations system-wide, which meant all the cash. I didn't have people in the actual locations that were processing cash, but I was responsible for the software, for policies, for working with the Bureau of Engraving every year to see how much money we needed to print.
Sure.
Working with the U.S. Mint to figure out how much coin we needed to mint.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
The difference is the Fed is actually the issuer of currency. We legally own that currency. And coins, it's the U.S. Mint. So they make all the decisions. We got to make all the decisions about currency. We had to work with the Mint to make all the
Really?
decisions about coin.
Most people would have thought it was all the same.
Yeah, and there's this thing called seigniorage. So a lot of people don't know this. Now, they may know it now on coin because there's no longer a penny being made.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tried for 3 years to work with the director of the Mint to get rid of the penny. So most people didn't realize the penny cost, when I left 3 years ago, the penny was almost 5 cents to make.
Isn't that crazy?
And the nickel right now, I just looked it up before
Yeah,
I came,
yeah.
is almost 13 cents to make. So get ready. Something in the
Days are coming.
next decade, something's going to happen to the nickel.
What about all the change that people have hoarded?
It's still good. We have never recalled currency or coin in the history.
Is that a?
It will always be good.
Is that? But is that a? Does that cost the American public money to hoard
No.
because we have to make more?
No, we actually made money by making more.
Okay.
Because here's the seniorage piece. It cost us 14 cents to make a $100 bill at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Maybe it's a little bit different now, but maybe it's 20 cents. I don't know.
Yeah.
And we sold it to the banks for $100.
Yeah.
Now there's some other complicated things.
Because it's not backed by gold.
It's not backed by gold anymore. It's only backed by the faith of the U.S. government.
Right.
It's interesting.
It is interesting.
But all that money funded the Fed. We actually, other than in some very odd accounting years, we'd turn over $50 billion, $200 billion to the Treasury because we made it off printing money that was needed. Now that we're not printing as much, we're not turning as much over, and with high interest rates that we have to pay on reserves for banks, there's been a few years the Fed lost money, and Treasury had to fund us. The Mint has that same responsibility. They have to recover their cost. And so, I don't know, a quarter probably, well, let's see, a dime only costs 4 cents to make. So they're making 6 cents on every dime that they mint.
Yeah.
The quarter, I can't remember the data on that, but they're making
They're
12,
making
13. And they make a lot of money off collectibles because they sell those for, 10, 15 times the face value at least.
Yeah.
But they're responsible for their budget. And so pennies became a nightmare. People hoarded them. There's shortages. I could tell you how many nights I lost sleep over the penny. And that's why I was trying to get the director to go to Congress to say, let's eliminate it.
Yeah.
And he says, you've never sat in a congressional hearing, Roger. I have to.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I finally gave up. We actually hired a company, a consultant to come in to do a study about what's the public's feeling about the penny. And we actually got feedback that some people throw them in the trash. They're just worthless to them.
That's something.
Other people, you got to keep Lincoln, and this is part of American heritage. And I totally understand that. I'm not trying to make a political decision. I'm just,
Right.
I know how much of a headache it was and how much the banks hated it. We had a group of retailers that we also worked with. So I had a person from Walmart out of Bentonville, someone from Minneapolis who was in charge of their payments out of for Target. Somebody from, I can't remember, one of the big gas companies that has gas stations. It could have been 7-Eleven, it could have been one of the others. But we had a group that we met with, and we always said, what can we do to make payments better? And the penny eventually came up.
Yeah.
And so we were at a meeting in Denver with all these retailers and said, okay, I looked at the guy from Walmart. I said, what about, they called it Swedish rounding. You're supposed to round up for 3 cents and down for 2. In the long run, it's even.
Right.
In the long run, nobody's really, unless you
Right.
game, and once you go to the grocery store and buy 20 things, how do you game that to make
right.
these 2 or 3 cents?
Yeah, there's
But the guy from Walmart looked at me and says, I'm in favor of that, and we'll do it if that person over there will do it. And he pointed at the person from Target. I looked at the guy, or the lady from Target, and she goes, we're not doing it.
Really?
Now, to some of the public's credit, some retailers, and I've experienced this, now that the penny is no longer theirs, there's a lot of places that are not giving you a penny. They are rounding.
Yeah.
But on this trip in, I stopped at a gas station or convenience store, and they had a sign that says, we round up. They never round down.
They don't round
and
down.
so they are making a little extra money on every single transaction.
Most all the stores around here round down.
They should.
I mean,
they should.
Casey's, I know they do.
I would not go back to that place that are always rounding
yeah.
up.
No, I had, matter of fact, I don't know that I've ever experienced anyone rounding up, but maybe they have.
Yeah, I think I've had that twice.
Yeah.
And that was always the fear of the public when we were in that meeting is, who's going to round down? And
Right.
everybody said, yeah, we'll round down. But there are people that are not
Sure.
rounding down.
Let's talk just a little bit about your charity work, your work that you do with some of the not-for-profits. I know you've got a real interest in that, obviously, with your children, but you've been involved in quite a bit of that.
Yeah, I spent 15 years serving on the board of the Arizona Council for Economic Education. They wanted somebody from the Fed, and that was my territory. So, there we raised money to help train teachers how to teach finance
Yeah.
to students,
Which
is lacking.
We
yeah,
need.
is lacking.
No doubt about it.
And so we every year would do events to raise money, bring people in. I, working at the Fed, couldn't really do a whole lot because we're supposed to be out of I can give advice, but I can't go recruit and bring money to
Sure.
them. But I could bring resources. Like, we do events, and I bring a speaker in at that event where they were raising money. So I worked with them for about 15 years until I gave up that regional executive job about 2 years before I retired, and then another person took it over. And then for the last decade, he's asked me to join the board, and I've told him no. But for the last decade, I've worked with Matt Asner, who's Ed Asner's son. I knew Ed as well, to raise money. Ed left all of his money to create a family center in the northern part of the, well, it's close to Hollywood, the studio where he used to work in the Valley. It's a family center for people that have kids like mine. They do training. They have a jobs training program. We 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, one of the first graduates got a job at a company called Funko. I don't know if you're familiar with Funko. They make those funny looking kind of bobblehead statues of different people.
Okay,
They're
yeah.
collectible.
Yeah, sure.
But they hired some.
You get a Major League ball games and stuff.
Yeah, they're not bobbleheads, but they kind of look like
kinda
that.
look like 'em.
And then I worked with a retiree that I knew from the Fed, of helping try to write software to get these people to build websites, get jobs, to do things like that. But I also help them raise money. And so right now I'm trying to get corporate sponsors to sponsor the Ed Asner Celebrity Poker event that's happening in August.
You've been doing that for a few years.
Yeah, I've done that for probably 10 years. Well, that I've probably done for 8 years.
Yeah.
But I first went to a concert called Light Up the Blues, and that was Autism Speaks concert. The promoter of that was David Cross. No, not David Cross.
One of his partners.
Stephen Stills.
Stephen Stills. Yeah.
Stephen Stills has
Yeah.
an autistic son.
I see.
And so he and his wife helped Autism Speaks put on this concert, and we went, and I saw, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Young was not there.
Yeah.
We saw Don Felder. There was, I can't remember all. There were a whole bunch of people, and it was raising money. And
That's awesome.
This was their first ever, and they had a guitar they were auctioning off. And I thought that'd be kind of cool to bid on a guitar. So I got into this bidding war with another guy, and I finally said, I'm not paying that. And little did I know I was, because they said, what was your last bid? I won't say what it was. You get that. So I actually got the second guitar signed by all these performers.
Oh, really?
A little bit cheaper than the guy that won.
Really?
Because they took my lesser bid that didn't win and said, we have two, so you get it too. So
Oh,
Janet
yeah.
and I have a guitar signed by all of those. So
Wow.
I've done that.
That would have some value, I would think.
Yeah, and we've done a couple of others. Like, are you familiar with Steve Lukather?
No.
Steve is the lead guitarist for the band Toto. Always
Oh,
has
okay.
been.
Okay. Yeah.
He has an autistic son that goes to the center.
Okay.
And so he's donated a couple of guitars that he signed. And
Yeah.
Janet has one of them, and we have the other.
Yeah.
So we have a few guitars signed
Yeah,
by people. But it's a way to raise money for the center to do that kind of
Sure.
work. It's a charity.
Yeah. So
but
did the center start? Did Ed he started the center?
Ed was still alive.
Did he have a child too?
Ed has a child that's
Yeah.
on the spectrum. Matt, his son, has a child who's on the spectrum. And then Matt, his first wife, divorced, and then he remarried a lady who has 2 kids on the spectrum.
Really?
They call themselves the Brady Bunch of autism.
Oh. Wow.
Just wonderful people
Yeah,
trying to make
yeah,
a difference
yeah.
with people who struggle. I'm fortunate enough to do what I did, and Janet do what I heard she did. But you think about it, a single mom in LA with an autistic son or 2,
It'd be just hard to
it's
fathom.
So
It really is.
it's something that we want to give back, and
Yeah.
so I brought in some sponsors. I brought in a person that sponsored their summer program. Over the years, I've helped Matt raised a lot of money.
That's awesome.
So
really good.
it's a good feeling to know that
It is.
you're not only doing something that feels good to you and honors your kids, but you're making a difference in the lives of others that are maybe now getting a job.
Absolutely. As we get to this point in life, you and I are not far apart, and isn't it amazing how your mindset and your mentality, you know, a lot of things I still think very similar to the way I did when we were growing up together in
Yeah.
Marshfield, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah,
I'm thankful that
very much so.
that I haven't veered in another direction because in my opinion, the wholesome life that we've lived and we've been blessed with in Marshfield, Missouri, is second to none. You know,
Absolutely agree.
and so I'm so thankful for that. But on the other hand, personally, as we age and we get to this point in life where we see, you know, friends that are ill, or we've lost siblings or parents and so forth, and we do realize that all this stuff that we have it means nothing.
Nothing.
We're all going to end up in the ground the
Yeah.
same,
Yeah.
maybe the same way or however we are. But you know, the things that you can do, like what you're doing with these not-for-profits that you've been involved with, and the things that you can do to help children like yours, and all the things that we do for communities, whatever
Yeah.
it might be, that's what's important.
Yeah.
And people won't remember a lot about what our lives were.
Nor will your kids want any of your belongings.
Exactly. But I tell you right now, we can think about those ahead of us that left thing, like Ed Asner
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
And you know, I would have only known him as the old grouch on Mary Tyler Moore.
He was a wonderful man.
Yeah, but see, you and that's what's important.
Yeah.
And so,
He agreed to come to my work, and we set up this program. I think it was about an hour and a half long, and we videoed it and broadcast it out to all the feds around the country.
Yeah.
We had a group, they called them ERGs, Employee Resource Groups. So there was one about, you know, religion. There was one about, we called it Fed Able, about those that had disabilities
Yeah.
and their families.
Yeah.
And we called it Fed Able. And I asked Matt and Ed, would you guys come in and we'll talk about this
Sure.
and broadcast
Sure.
it? And they did. Ed was hilarious.
Yeah.
He turned around and said, I think you misspelled your group's name. You put an F in front of it. So if you take the F off, it's Ed Able.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was just a
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
His
yeah.
comedic ability was, it was
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
even when he wasn't on film.
That's cool.
But you know, you talk about Marshfield. One thing I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
how lucky we were to grow up in the era that we grew up in, with the people in our lives that made such a difference for us. And I call them the pillars of Marshfield.
Yeah.
You know,
Now,
D. Lewis.
Yeah, D. Lewis. But let me ask you this: now, did the Big Bang allow us to do that?
I have no idea what allowed us to do that, but I'm happy.
mean-
I'm happy to say it happened.
It did happen, and it happened to me. I mean, why was it me?
Yeah.
Why was it you and
Yeah.
I?
Yeah.
And why didn't we end up somewhere else, maybe dead by now? I mean,
Well, I would say I do have an answer
something
to part.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
why did we not? Because we had parents that cared about us and raised us
Parents,
with good
grandparents,
morals,
community,
That's right.
friends. We had
I-
I had Maxine Replogle,
Yeah.
even though maybe just a small piece, but she still was a piece.
Well,
and you had the Frakers, and you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
it's living in a community.
And I had somebody that was one of my coaches that saw me driving not so good,
Yeah.
a little dangerously around Townhouse
Yeah.
once. And I got home and I heard about it
Yeah,
from my dad. It's like,
exactly,
I heard what you were
exactly.
doing at Townhouse.
Exactly. No, it's.
I mean, they looked after us. But
they did, and we
you know,
rode our
Jack,
bikes
Jack
around
Waters and Jack's Fearless Forecast. I
Warren
mean,
Beck.
Warren
you know.
Beck.
Hey,
That's-
Goober, what are
yeah.
you doing, Goober?
Yeah.
He called me Goober. You know.
I remember
Heard my
that.
dad say that. I guess.
Well, your dad. I mean, Don talked about. Don was my uncle.
Yeah.
Don
Chocolate.
talked about your dad and the conversations he had with
He
him.
did. I had no idea.
Me either.
I didn't even know your uncle until you introduced me to him through our phones, through messaging, and what a wonderful man. And here's his book right here, like My Life as an Expat. And this guy is so accomplished, and you would never even know it.
And a
But
super,
just a
one of the
person-
nicest people you'd
one of
ever
the
meet.
nicest, and a Christian. I
Yeah,
mean, a nice
yeah.
lives all those values that we were raised with. But anyway, it's
So we won the lotto.
We won the lottery, yeah, and it's not always perfect, but it's it's as good as anybody has it, and you've seen a different culture out there. You've lived around a culture that's not like this, so that's even more to me rewarding to know that someone that I trust and value, and that you still come back and say, yeah, this is still the best place in the world right here, even though I've lived out there all those years. And there's times that we want to explore and experience and do other things, but we're just lucky.
Well, when we moved to California, we'd been back out there for a while. I asked Jan, I said, would you ever be interested in moving back? And she says, I'll never leave California again.
Really?
I'll tell you, we had a conversation the last month or two.
Yeah.
And she says, I said that, but, there's a crack opening there. So who knows?
Yeah.
We may never be back. I have kids out there,
Yeah.
I have friends out there, family out there. But who knows? Maybe someday. My daughter owns 160 acres down by Niangua that was
Really?
in the Hendricks family.
Oh, really?
And she might move back someday. Who
Hendricks
knows?
family.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, like I said, there's just so many good people here
Yeah.
that looked at. Now, I can't speak today because I don't know. I'm only here short periods of time every few years.
Sure.
But I'm hoping Marshfield is still that community.
I think it is. It's there's certainly changing. You can't go from 3,000 people to 8,000 people without there being changes.
Yeah.
But generally, the basic footprint is still very similar, and we still have our own identity. We have not become a part of the metropolitan area, so to speak. We're still far enough removed from that. We will be someday. Being the county seat, we're just not like Ozark, Nixa, and Republic are to Springfield. We're still a little bit more separate.
Yeah.
But we're not perfect.
No.
And we have our
there's
controversies.
Nobody's perfect anywhere.
No, and excuse me. Just to briefly mention this, what we went through here in recent weeks and months with the data center, I won't say revelation, but it has been a change for our community to sort of be at each other's throat about an issue. Not that we haven't always had politics or whatever, but it's been a little bit different, and I'm not real proud of that. I mean, I look at that and go, man, we can do better than this.
Yeah.
There's but hopefully that will work its way out just like everything else does, and I think it may be headed that direction. We'll see where that all lands, but it's probably no different than other technologies that came along the way. Think about when can you imagine being a stagecoach driver and when the locomotives, when the Iron Horse came into town?
No.
I mean, they bought up all the property, they took out farms, they moved homesteaders off their places. I mean, we've always had that.
Yeah.
The automobile, what it did to the horse industry, or the airline industry, what it did to the trucking industry, or the whatever.
And the trains.
Trains, yeah, and the passenger service. So you have to adjust with all that. The internet, just what you mentioned, your business, the check, when checks were
we were doing software
done away
changes.
with. Yeah, it's crazy. So.
Yeah,
well,
the other thing I'd say is I've been lucky in my work, getting to do the things, meeting the people I've got to meet. I've met some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
I've traveled to 20 countries.
Wow.
For work.
That's awesome.
One of the hardest things for me to do in retirement is about 3 years before I retired, we started designing and building a new machine to process currency. No American company has the capability to do it. There was a company in Japan, one in London, and one in Germany. And so we got to work with that. So we ended up choosing the one in Germany.
Yeah.
So I got to go over there a lot to
Really?
tell them what they were doing wrong
Really?
and how to fix this.
Cool.
But I mean, it's just fun projects like that to work on.
Yeah.
People would be amazed if they saw our vaults. I used to do tours at the bank in LA. It's not the biggest vault. It should be, because LA is probably the biggest metropolitan area.
Uh-huh.
But the first question I always get is, how much money is in that vault? And I'd say, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
But I can tell you what our president says. It starts with a B and it ends with an S.
Yeah.
It's the size of a football field.
Wow.
And just different things like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, meeting people that blow me away and how intelligent they are.
Yeah. Did you see lots of changes with the various administrations when they changed?
Typically, the Fed really does try to be apolitical.
Like Greenspan was in there for all the different.
Oh, did I see with the changes of the head of the Fed?
Well, no, I said administrations, but to lay on
I
to
see
that,
what's in the news, but
yeah.
we always said we're not
Not political.
We're not political.
Right.
We don't care if it's a Democrat, a Republican.
Yeah.
Our mission
Right.
is X.
And that's what
and
it
I
should
would
be.
and I would tell you, there have been times where I think that we have not done as good in our mission as we should have.
Yeah.
And it's a hard. You try to predict the future about what's going to happen in the economy. The one thing I said is about board members. Our economists and presidents that go back to the FOMC meeting only see data.
Yeah.
What's happened? They can't see what's happening because some of that information doesn't show up in real data to analyze till 6 months to a year later.
That's right. But the only way you can predict the future is by looking at the past.
Yeah.
We do know that.
Yeah, yep. But we also pulled these people in and said, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? Oh, credit is tightening. Oh, our costs are going way up. Automation is killing us or helping us. I mean, so understanding what was happening in the economy from people that are living in it and running it versus, our people are economists that are PhD, they're professors.
What about
they don't live in it.
Right, the Great Recession of 08,
That was
09.
tough.
I was going to say, nobody knew where we were going, just like with COVID. Nobody knew where COVID was going to take us.
No.
And how in the world could you come to work in February of 09 and go, what's tomorrow going to bring? We've seen the stock market go from 20,000 to 6,000.
Yeah, I knew I had a long enough career. I tried not to worry about that. But I will tell you, during COVID, everybody took money out. And I had many sleepless nights being in charge of the money supply. Well, not me personally, but helping run it with the people in Washington.
Yeah.
And there were times that we were worried about people are taking out so much cash. Are we going to have enough?
Yeah.
And we fortunately had enough to meet demand. There were a few times that we were a little bit nervous about if this trend continues. So I was out there with other people saying, really, how much money do you need? You've got a credit card, you got a debit card, you can write a check. And I understand, I had a little bit of money, but we saw people taking out $300,000.
Yeah.
Because I'm taking this out of the bank. The banking system fails, and they were nervous, and I totally understand that.
Absolutely.
But man, it put pressure on us. There were times in a certain denominations that we were down to 2 or 3 days worth of payables.
Really?
So I will tell you, that's not true anymore. They're printing way more money, which isn't good economically. But could you imagine the chaos if we ran out? If all of a sudden you went to the bank and you can't get money?
Can't get your money.
That would be a disaster.
It would, yeah.
And so there are trade-offs about, printing money. If this happens again, we used to have what we called a 30-day payable inventory, and then there were other things we could do. We could start putting dirtier money back into circulation. We just go adjust our machines to say, instead of destroying this note, now recirculate it.
Absolutely.
So we thought that, we had enough.
Yeah.
And then we saw during COVID, people taking out so much money, it made us nervous. Like I said, we survived, but now there's more money being held at the Fed for contingencies like that if they ever happen again.
Sure.
Awesome. We were worried 10, 15 days out, are we going to have to say, hey, we can't give you any 20s, we can't give you any hundreds.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem was ATMs used to only give 20s, now they give 50s and 100s, a lot of 50s.
Yeah.
And so 50s aren't really used that much in circulation, and all of a sudden people wanted 50s. And so we had to print the following year after COVID hit. I don't know the number, but it was like 4 or 5 times as many 50s as we've ever printed before.
Right.
Because everybody was taking them out and holding them.
Look at the casino business. I mean, 50s and 100s.
Yeah.
And they,
50s are unlucky for casinos.
You didn't oh, really?
Yeah.
You
They will never give you a 50 in a casino. I have so much trivia about money. We could go on for another hour, hour and a half.
Maybe we can do that sometime.
Well, and a couple of just quick hits because we're probably running out of time.
Yeah.
But the $1 bill will never be redesigned unless Congress redesigns it, and that was a law passed several years ago because the vending machines, every time we'd update money, it takes new sensors in those machines to recognize the security features that we tell them about.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of security features we can't tell anybody about. Right? I say we. I'm no longer there, but there are things, and there's a lot of technology in notes that people don't realize. And if you look at a $20 bill, turn it over, you see the little 20, yellow 20s on the back. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
I'd have to look at it.
When it came out,
Yeah.
we didn't say anything about it, and finally people noticed it, and we got questions on it. But that's computer code on the back of a note that if somebody were to lay it down on a scanner or a color copier to try to counterfeit, make copies of it, it's code that we worked with the printing and color copier companies to write software to not let it happen.
Yeah.
So if you put a $20 note with those 20s down, either it's going to come back with a code on their computer screen that says you need to visit this website. Well, guess where that website's at?
Reserve.
U.S. Secret Service.
So, oh yeah.
Or it will only print it in black ink, so you can't use it, as counterfeit.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a ton
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, just look at the money today and the money 50 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
I mean, there's so many. You can look at just put it up to the light, and you can see all
Yeah.
kinds of weird
Yeah.
stuff that nobody,
Tons of stuff.
Yeah, tons of stuff.
And stuff that I couldn't tell you.
Right. Roger, we are at a time. We could
Okay.
sit here and do this longer, but we do have a big event tonight,
Yeah.
don't we?
Yep.
Mention couple more things about retirement. You're playing a lot of golf. I know you've been,
Not very good at it, but I'm playing.
Yeah, you get a chance to do that frequently with friends, and you keep connected. That way?
I have a group that I play with almost every week, once a week, and then I have a group that we do golf trips.
Yeah.
And so earlier this year we did Torrey Pines down in San Diego, then we did Scottsdale in April, and I'm going to Colorado in August and Oregon in September. And last year we went to central Nebraska, a place called the Prairie Dunes. It's in the middle of nowhere, and it's some of the best golf courses I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And we were in the middle of nowhere. We had little bunk houses that we slept in. And one night a thunderstorm rolled up. It's probably one of the biggest thunderstorms I've ever seen in my life. And just...
You don't have tornadoes out there, do you?
No, we have earthquakes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And you sometimes get to play with some of your old Marshfield buddies.
Yeah, we did that yesterday.
I'll see you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, when I went to the Prairie Dunes, Brent Davis
Yeah.
and Steve Aarons,
Yeah.
I invited them to join us, and they did.
Good.
And so from time to time, somebody in our group will say,
Right.
well, I can't make this one, and it'll
Right.
open up. And
Right.
we had a couple openings, and I called those guys. And I called Dean Whitty, too, but Dean had a shoulder problem.
Yeah.
He couldn't make it. But
Well,
luckily
those guys
Brent-
will all be out here tonight.
Yeah.
You guys are going to have a great time. I know you and some of those guys you've mentioned are actually catering the food for the whole class.
Yeah,
Fred
Fred
is
Lamp.
an awesome thing. Fred Lamp, that's an
Renee.
awesome thing. We appreciate you all tying in with our Reunion Fest. It's a great partnership. I look forward to next year. Hopefully our class will want to do the same thing. It's a great way for even all the people, like I know Keith Stewart's going to come by tonight, and Mike Aiken, his brother-in-law, is in your class,
Yep.
and he's brought some memorabilia of Mike's to share with people, and all those connections of siblings and even parents and other teachers and other people. That's why the Reunion Fest works so well.
This is a sobering fact,
Yeah.
but as we tried to locate everybody,
Yeah.
we've lost over 25% of our class.
Is it that
Yeah,
many?
yeah.
Wow, that is a lot.
It's
I don't
shocking
think we
to
have.
us. It was shocking. We didn't think so either until
Yeah.
we really started talking around
Yeah.
to people that knew
Yeah.
and could follow up.
Man, do you remember how many classmates you had originally?
I think we were 121.
Yeah,
or so.
ours was a little bigger.
Yeah,
Ours was
we
like
were a smaller
140
class.
something.
Yeah,
But still,
but yeah,
that's
we've
a lot.
lost like I think it was 30 some odd people have already passed away. So go to your reunion
Absolutely.
because you might not see them again.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Unfortunately, we're at that age.
We sure are. And well, it's been great.
Yeah,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much. I wish you the best and safe traveling back home. And I know you guys are gonna have a good time tonight. You'll be doing fun stuff tomorrow
Yeah.
and all of that. When are you heading back? Middle of the week next week?
Well, it's a long story, but we're having a Land Cruiser restored in
Oh, yeah.
Charlotte, and so my wife and daughter are continuing on to Charlotte to
Yeah.
pick that car up and driving back, and they'll meet us somewhere. I don't know if it's here or Nashville or wherever.
Sure.
And we did Route 66 on the way in, and parts of it we'll do on the way back that we missed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I may be here till Tuesday. I may be here till Wednesday, depending
Okay.
on how that part goes for
Yeah.
them.
Good.
Yeah.
Good family time together with
Yep.
all the family.
Yep.
Well, we better get down there and see what's going on the field.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
sir.
sir.
Yep.
Thank you all
Pleasure.
for joining us. We'll be back with you soon with another podcast from the Marshfield Old School Times. Thanks.